Welcome to WPS After Hours podcast, a presentation of the Public Information Office. We take you beyond the headlines to get the story behind the stories on the issues that impact you. In today's episode, Constables Jason McAlishan and Danny McKinnon, alongside Detective Tasha Sullivan, discuss the prevalence of grandparent scams and why you should just hang up the phone. And now, settle in, grab your coffee, here are your hosts.
Okay, well, first and foremost, welcome everyone to the inaugural WPS After Hours. We're really excited about this podcast and just new venture. It's essentially an extension of our social media with the Winnipeg Police Service. So we have Danny McKinnon, we have Tasha here as well. I'll just pass it on to Danny right now.
Our guest today is Tasha Sullivan. She's an investigator with the Financial Crimes Unit. Tasha's been on the service since 2016 and in the Financial Crimes Division as an investigator since 2022. And the reason we're here today, because March is Fraud Prevention Month, and we thought what a great inaugural podcast kickoff to talk about the prevalent and unfortunate, ever-growing grandparent scam, also known as an emergency scam. And we want to talk about how it is infiltrating the senior citizens of the city in North America, and how this scam has evolved and it's become trickier, harder to detect, why it's underreported, what it looks like, and what we can do to prevent this scam. So, Tasha, if I may, can you just run us through what does the grandparent scam look like? Many of us have heard of it, there's variations of it, but just give us the nuts and bolts.
Well, it's called the grandparent scam because typically it targets grandparents. A lot of the time they're pretending to be a grandchild or a relative of the person that they're calling. So it all starts with a phone call that the elderly person will receive, and someone on the other line will say, "Hey, Grandma, Grandpa, it's insert name here," right? Cindy, Sam, Stella, Evan, George, Bob. And then they'll say that something happened. And they'll either be crying or coughing. So sometimes that's one way that it'll obstruct their voice a little bit and make it sound even more convincing, right? They're emotional or they're not feeling well. And so that can kind of make their voice sound a little off.
So hang on, what you're saying is the fraudster, the perpetrator, the criminal is calling and pretending that they are a grandchild, and the senior citizen answers, and because this fraudster is perhaps sniffling, crying, masking their voice, grandma or grandpa doesn't even really know it's them, but they'll say, "Yeah, it's me, it's Aaron, it's Tom, it's Joe," and they'll acknowledge this, and then that's affirmation that this is their grandchild.
That's right. It sounds very realistic.
Okay.
And then the grandchild will go on to say what happened. And a lot of the time, the story is very similar. It'll be the same thing, right? They'll be driving in a car, and they'll have their GPS on. And then for whatever reason, their phone will fall out of the phone holder, right? It'll be really realistic, something that would happen to you or to me. And so then they reach down to pick up their phone, and at that moment, they crash into the car in front of them. And unbeknownst to them, the person in the car in front of them is pregnant. And so the ambulance is called, and the ambulance comes, and that person is injured, and they whisk her off to the hospital, and the police come, and he gets arrested, say this grandchild, right? And then when they're arrested, then oftentimes they pass the phone to the lawyer. And then a legal official or someone pretending to be either a lawyer or a police officer will come on the phone and talk to the grandparent and say, "Yep, this person has been arrested. This is the crime," and their bail is set at, say, $5,000.
Okay.
So these are pretty elaborate stories, eh?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, this is very well thought out, very elaborate, and pretty believable, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a lot of details in there. And then they move the phone from one person to another person who has a sense of authority.
Yep.
And then that person will go on to explain things to the grandparent and talk about what needs to happen so that this grandchild can get out of jail. And they'll explain that there's usually a gag order in place. And the gag order, they explain, means that they can't tell anybody. And if they tell anybody about what's going on, then their grandchild will remain in jail and the bail will be revoked. So then they explain to the grandparent that the money needs to be cash, and the cash needs to be in an envelope, and either they need to go somewhere to meet and drop it off to a bail bondsman, or that they will send either a bail bondsman or an undercover police officer to their house to pick up the money. So it sounds convincing, and of course the grandparent gets emotionally triggered because they care about their family and about their grandchildren. They want a future for them, and they want the best for them.
So you've mentioned a couple of things, a couple of different times. You've said law enforcement, bail bonds. We don't even have bail bondsmen that we deal with in Canada. So let's just lay that out on the line right now. Talk to us about law enforcement or lawyers or hospitals or any entity. Would they ever call and ask for money ever?
They're not going to call and ask you for money. No, absolutely not.
Never.
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 And we explain that to people on the phone when they call in. And usually people say that's when their spidey senses started to go off and they start to think, oh, like I'm not, something seems off here. And that's the biggest thing. Pay attention to that feeling.
Yeah, but I think, just you describing one of those scenarios and all those details, all those little things that are going on, the phone dropping, potentially sirens or ambulance or just the description of that all taking place. I mean, they're creating this frantic moment and kind of elevating that grandparent or that elderly person's, their anxiety is going through the roof. So, they're not even in a position to think in that moment. All they care about is the welfare and the safety of their loved one, and they're going to do anything they can to help them. And if it's a bit of cash, some cases a lot of cash, and sometimes a little bit less, but regardless of how much it is, it's going to have an impact. So they're just willing to do anything and everything in most cases that you've experienced, or?
Yeah, and you know what? Fraudsters, they monopolize on that element that you're talking about, where they create that sense of urgency and then they maintain it, because guaranteed people are going to feel like, oh my goodness, what's going on? And they're going to want to talk to other people and verify things and ask questions, right? And I think the fraudsters know that. So they have these continual check-ins where they make a plan with this grandparent. Okay, well, you're going to go to the bank, you're going to get some money, and they even create plans with the grandparents of this is what you're going to tell the bank, so that it's not suspicious, because they know that if an elderly person goes to the bank and takes out $8,000 in cash, the bank's going to have questions. So they tell and they instruct these senior citizens to say something like, oh, I'm doing renovations, or I'm going on a trip and it's last minute, or my grandchild needs a new car and I want to buy it for them, right? They tell these stories so that they don't elicit suspicion from other people. But then they also phone and check in on the elderly person constantly to reassure them, to keep the story real, to maintain that lone line of contact, right?
Isolation.
Yeah, that's part of it.
Yeah, they don't want anyone else to get involved because, again, that's going to potentially compromise their whole scheme. And so, again, they're just trying to guide them through the entire process until such time they have obtained some cash. So many people are being victimized day in and day out in our community, and that's why these conversations are so important.
The victim, unfortunately, has been hooked into this scam. They take out $5,000. They e-transfer it, or a courier sent and they easily give it up, or they go to the ATM and they mail it out, whatever the case may be. They've been clearly victimized. They realize now they've been victimized. What do? How do they connect now with you?
Well, once you know you've been scammed, right, a lot of the time that happens by talking to their family member. That's how they'll realize it first. And then once they know it, they can report it to the local law enforcement. So for us, that's Winnipeg Police, right? You could call the non-emergency line, or you could make an online report. Both ways will have that report come to the Financial Crimes Office. Or you can report to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre.
Which is?
The Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre is national. They're based out of Ottawa, and they'll be looking at all the reports that come in from British Columbia, Newfoundland, Fredericton, all of the cities and communities where these things are reported. And honestly, it is all across Canada that it happens. So they can look at all the different places and see, oh, hey, if this person, this phone number called an address in Winnipeg, they also called one in Edmonton and that kind of thing. They can kind of put the puzzle pieces together over there that way.
So they establish patterns. They have access to a number of reports. They establish patterns of recognition, and then they will reach out to the individual law enforcement. So, for example, if CAFC is getting a certain pattern and phone number and description of a suspect from Winnipeg, they will siphon that information to Winnipeg Police. Is that correct? I just want to make sure that that is the correct
That's
chain.
right. They have a wide database of information, but not only that, they have tons of prevention tools and education, and they have people specifically designated to assist seniors who've been victimized, because they know that seniors have been especially targeted by not just the grandparent scam, but other scams as well. And so they do have members there who will go out and make phone calls and touch base and provide resources and emotional support to all the people who've been victimized. And that's a really big deal too. Just receiving that support, I think, after it's occurred, the victims really need that. They need someone to talk to process, and to kind of move on in a positive perspective.
People shouldn't feel embarrassed or because they've done nothing wrong, right? It's the individuals that are contacting them, they are very good at what they do. Mm-hmm. They do this in volumes and numbers that probably would baffle us.
Even if you haven't lost money, it's hugely important that we receive that information so we can connect all the dots. It's like if you've got a little connect the dot photo, and then it doesn't matter if someone has lost money or not, right? Everybody's a dot, and you need all the dots to connect everything and get the full picture.
Linkages, and from a law enforcement or kind of a crime analysis type of thing that we do on a daily basis, connecting those dots is just so important to us as investigators.
Knowledge is power.
Absolutely.
So as we move along the continuum, the crime has happened, it's been reported, Financial Crimes Unit, it's sitting on Tasha Sullivan's desk. You get the money back?
Not necessarily. A lot of the times we don't. And that's one of the parts about this scam that is so terrible and egregious. A lot of the time the money is gone. It'll be sent somewhere, or it won't, right? Especially when it's cash. Right, that can be transferred into so many different forms of money and monetary value that it can disappear so quickly, and we can lose the trace quite easily. Sometimes we do get the money back though, and that's amazing, and that's a huge win. So we always love it when that happens. Yeah.
Do you have as an investigator, or even personally, like an investigation that really resonates with you, or a success, or just the type of people you were dealing with, maybe the amount of money, or again, if you've had any family or involved in anything like this, is there something that you could maybe share just with us? Because again, it's we're all a part of the same community. We can all be victimized, and you as an investigator, you're seeing this on a daily basis. So,
well, that's a huge topic, but
short version. We only have a few minutes, but just something that kind of resonates. Someone says to you, is there a memorable investigation that you've had? Could just break it down to something simple as that.
Yeah, well, for sure. I mean, the grandparent scams on a whole resonate with me because, well, my grandmother literally was called. One of her grandkids did get mentioned, but luckily she called one of our other family members, and she didn't lose any money.
She took your advice.
Actually, this was way before I was even in financial crime.
Okay.
So,
well, at least she's sharp.
Like I say, I'm sure conversations that we try and have with our family members about any type of crime. Trusting police and calling police for whatever reason. We're here to help and here to support. So.
Well, having that relationship with the family members is huge. I think that's a huge part of prevention, because sometimes it'll be happening, but someone will go check on their parent, like their mom or their dad, and they'll see something that's off, or they'll see a note, or they'll hear something and they'll say, this something doesn't seem quite right. And then that'll start the conversation that'll stop the scam. But in regards to a memorable case, we did have a few years ago, we had a string of grandparent scams that came through Winnipeg. And I think there were about 13 different incidents that were all reported and that all had losses. And we were actually able to arrest the 2 ladies that had been going to pick up all the money for these frauds. And throughout that investigation, we actually did find and recover about $70,000 worth of money that had
awesome.
been stolen. So that was a good win, and that was great. But unfortunately, that's not a case that we see every day. It can be harder sometimes to connect all those. And 13 incidents, when somebody's making, like, say, 200, 300 calls in Winnipeg, 13 is probably only a fraction of all the incidents that were reported. And we see that a lot because people are ashamed that the money was lost, right? And they're emotional, and they want their family members to trust them. So there can be some shame that's associated with making the report. But honestly, it's rampant. It's huge, and it's believable. And these fraudsters, they're very professional. It's like a job, right? As soon as somebody indicates that they don't believe the story that's going on, typically the fraudsters will just drop the call and move on to the next person because it's not worth it to them.
So much of this, like you said earlier, is about awareness and education and all that good stuff. Who else are we partnering with in Winnipeg specifically with respect to fraud and even fraud prevention through the month of March and throughout the year, of course?
Yeah. Well, there's lots of fraud partners in Manitoba. I know we partner with the Competition Bureau, the Securities Commission, the National Bank of Canada, the Canada Revenue Agency, and I think the Better Business Bureau. There's lots of banks that provide information to the public.
Yeah, absolutely.
And lots of, I know our community relations unit often liaises with different community centers and senior centers to provide education and information about what kind of frauds are out there and what people can look for in order to not fall prey to a scam.
Yeah.
So there's lots of working parts.
So you said 2 things that I wanted to just touch on. CRA, you said Canada Revenue Agency, and banks. So the banks are very aware of these scams, and like you said, they'll often try and be gatekeepers for seniors, especially customers that they've known for years, and so that's very important. And then the second thing is CRA. Like, this scam's been going on forever, but just to touch on it, like, if they ever call you or text you asking for money, or especially now because tax time's coming up, just hang up the phone, because that's not how it works. And let's talk about prevention, because we'd be remiss in not doing that. Can we talk about just hang up the phone, and that it's not rude to just hang up the phone?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I've had some calls from elderly citizens who've gotten this phone call, and they get all worked up about it, and they tell me what happened, and then they're like, but I knew it was a scam, so I just hung right up.
That's great.
I'm like, great work.
Good
I'm
work.
so proud of you. That's awesome.
Job well done.
Yeah, there are some things that you can do other than just hanging up that really will help you prevent the fraud, like not listing your number, right? And being cognizant of the personal information that you put online on your social media, right? Because the names of your grandchildren and the names of your family, there's fraudsters out there looking for that information, right?
Oh yeah, they'll prey on anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think 20 minutes has come and gone, but before we just completely say goodbye for this evening here, I would just like to say that the Winnipeg Police website, open facing to the public, has a lot of information about scams, about other crimes related to fraud. Very easy to search out. Report your scam to the police if you've lost money. Report it to CAFC. I had to recently do one myself. It's very easy. It's online. Thank you, Tasha Sullivan. Continue that great work you're doing. We really appreciate it. Thank you, my friend Jason.
Thanks, Danny.
And we'll sign off here. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for listening to WPS After Hours. Highlights and links referenced in this episode can be found in our show notes. Please subscribe and share.